All right, let's dive into one of the most blistering, hilarious, and just absolutely grim satires ever put to paper. We're talking about Voltaire's masterpiece, Candide. So this thing was published way back in 1759, and it's a short novel, but man, it packs a punch. It's basically one giant takedown of a philosophical idea that was super popular at the time. The idea that a good, all-powerful God created the best of all possible worlds. And let me tell you, Voltaire, he was just getting ready to tear that whole concept to shreds.
I mean, just think about that for a second. What if someone told you that every single thing that happens, no matter how awful, no matter how tragic, is actually for the best? That it's all part of some perfect cosmic plan? Would you buy it? Could you? Well, that's exactly the question Voltaire shoves in our faces. And his method for doing that? He puts his main character through, just absolute unbelievable hell.
So where does it all start? Well, our story kicks off in what sounds like a total paradise, right? It's this castle, the castle of the Baron Thunder ten Tronckh, in a place called Westphalia. And this is where we meet our hero, Candide. Now, Candide is, well, he's a good kid, a simple heart, and let's be honest, an even simpler mind. And he's totally head over heels in love with the Baron's daughter, Cunegund. And you have to understand, these folks live in what they believe is a perfectly ordered little universe. The Baron? He's the most powerful baron in the land. His wife? The best baroness, of course. And the castle? Oh, you better believe it's the greatest of all possible castles. At least, that's what they're all told, day in and day out, by one very important figure, their in-house philosopher and tutor, a guy named Pangloss.
And Pangloss, oh boy, he teaches this philosophy with a name that is just deliberately ridiculous. Ready for it? Metaphysico-Theologico-Cosmologeny-gology. Yeah, try saying that 3 times fast. It's basically Voltaire's way of poking fun at a real philosopher, Gottfried Leibniz. And the core idea is pretty simple, if you can believe it. This world is the best of all possible worlds. Everything that happens, happens for a reason, and it's all for the best. Nothing could possibly be any different because it's already perfect.
And this quote from him, it's perfect. It just perfectly shows you the kind of bonkers, circular logic Voltaire is making fun of. See, according to Pangloss, it's not that we invented glasses to help us see better. Oh, no. It's that noses were made to hold up glasses. We have breeches because legs were clearly designed to wear them. See? It's completely backwards. And our hero, Candide? He just swallows this stuff whole, not a single doubt in his mind.
But you know what can't last, right? This perfect, logical little bubble world, it is about to come crashing down, hard. And you know, like a lot of huge disasters in books, it all kicks off with one tiny, almost innocent little moment.
So here's what happens. Cunegund spies on her teacher, Pangloss, who's, let's just say, giving a very hands-on physics lesson to one of the maids. Well, this gives her an idea. She decides she wants to do a little experiment of her own with Candide. They sneak behind a screen, they share a kiss, and bam! The Baron sees them. And he absolutely loses it. In a rage, he literally kicks Candide out of the castle, out of this paradise, and straight into the brutal reality of the real world. And just like that, Pangloss's whole philosophy gets its very first very big test.
And wow, what a world it turns out to be. See, Candide getting kicked out isn't just some small hiccup. No, it is the start of a non-stop, absolutely brutal series of disasters. And this is Voltaire's whole game plan. He's going to use these catastrophes to just hammer that philosophy of optimism into dust.
So almost right away, poor Candide is freezing, he's starving, and he gets tricked into joining the Bulgar army. And then, get this, he decides to go for a little walk, thinking he has free will and all that. Big mistake. He gets captured for deserting, and they give him this lovely choice. Either be shot dead on the spot, or run the gauntlet and get flogged 36 times by the entire regiment. He picks the flogging and somehow barely survives. Yeah, so much for free will, huh?
Next up on the tour of the best of all possible worlds, the glories of war. And Voltaire describes this battle with this terrifying cold detachment. He just rattles off the numbers, 30,000 men slaughtered. Candide is left to walk through these burned-out villages filled with piles of limbs and mutilated bodies. And through all of this, he's still supposed to believe that this is all happening for the best. Somehow, Candide escapes the war. He makes his way to Lisbon in Portugal, thinking, okay, finally some safety. But nope. The moment he arrives, the city is hit by a massive, catastrophic earthquake. We're talking 30,000 people gone in an instant. Okay, so surely, Surely Pangloss's happy-go-lucky philosophy can't possibly explain away a natural disaster this huge, right? Right?
Wrong. Not according to the people in charge, anyway. The wise men of Lisbon come up with a brilliant idea. The best way to stop more earthquakes? We need to hold an auto da fe, an act of faith. And this is where you really see the insane logic Voltaire is going after. They literally believed that to stop the ground from shaking, they needed to ceremonially burn a few people alive as a sacrifice to God.
And guess who the lucky victims of this ceremony are? Well, turns out Candide had just miraculously bumped into Pangloss again in Lisbon. So Pangloss gets hanged for talking about his philosophy. And Candide, he gets flogged, again, nearly to death this time. And the whole time this is happening, there's a choir singing. It's just perfect, isn't it? The best of all possible worlds.
Okay, so just when you think things cannot possibly get any worse for this guy, he starts finding the people he thought he lost forever. But hold on. These are not happy, joyful reunions. Not at all. In fact, they're here to prove a really grim point. Candide's suffering isn't special. It's just what it means to be alive in this world. So Candide actually finds Pangloss again, but he's a beggar, just completely ravaged by syphilis. And it turns out Pangloss actually survived his own hanging. It was a botched job. So Candide asks him, "How on earth did you get this disease?" And Pangloss, being Pangloss, has a whole philosophical explanation. He says he got it from Paquette, you remember the maid back at the castle? And then in this perfectly absurd twist, he traces the disease's path all the way back to one of Christopher Columbus's men, basically arguing that syphilis was a necessary evil for Europe to get chocolate from the New World. You just can't make this stuff up.
And then he finds Cunegonde. She's alive too, but her story is just a laundry list of pure horror. Her whole family was slaughtered, she was raped by soldiers, stabbed, left for dead, and then sold into sexual slavery, where she was forced to be shared by two men, a Jewish merchant and the Grand Inquisitor himself. But here's the kicker. Just when you think her story is the worst thing you've ever heard, her servant, this old woman, pipes up, and her story is even worse. She was the daughter of a pope, and she's been through slavery, war, plague, and even cannibalism. At one point, starving soldiers literally ate one of her buttocks. The point Voltaire is making is crystal clear. This isn't just one person's bad luck. This level of suffering is everywhere, for everyone.
So after all of this, something finally snaps in Candide. You see, up to this point, he's just been this passive victim, right? He just takes tragedy after tragedy. But he's been pushed too far. The sheer cruelty of the world finally starts to rub off on him, and he stops just enduring, and he starts to act.
And when one of Cunegonde's owners, Don Issachar, shows up to claim his time with her, Candide doesn't even hesitate. He grabs a sword and runs the man straight through. And then, just moments later, the Grand Inquisitor shows up for his turn. Candide kills him too. Just like that, the sweet, naive kid from the castle is a double murderer. And now they have no choice but to flee Europe and head for the New World.
But you know that saying, wherever you go, there you are? Escaping to a new world doesn't mean you escape the old problems. In South America, Candide quickly discovers that all the same stuff, the arrogance about social class, the casual violence, it's all thriving there too. And this leads him right into his next disastrous encounter.
And then another miracle. In what seems like an incredible stroke of luck, Candide finds Cunegonde's brother, the one he thought was killed by the Bulgar army. Turns out he's not only alive, he's a powerful Jesuit commander in Paraguay. I mean, it's this incredibly joyful, tear-filled reunion. These two guys both thought the other was long dead.
But that joy? It lasts for about 5 minutes. Because when Candide happily says, "Hey, I'm going to marry your sister," the brother is absolutely horrified. And this is another one of Voltaire's brilliant attacks on the sheer absurdity of the class system. The brother, this new baron, says there's no way his sister, who has 72 noble quarterings in her family tree, is going to marry a nobody like Candide. He gets so angry, he actually hits Candide, and our hero, now completely enraged, pulls out his sword and runs him through too. And there it is again. This cycle just repeats. Murder, followed by a frantic escape. Candide, the guy who started out as a simple, naive optimist, is now a 3-time killer. He's on the run again, this time wearing the bloody robes of the man he just killed, the brother of the woman he loves. And this all leads us to a really devastating question, one that just hangs over the entire rest of the book. Think about it. He killed those 2 men to save Cunegonde, but that just forced them to become fugitives. He found her brother, and his good intention to marry her led to another murder. So in a world that is this fundamentally broken, Is it even possible to try and do good without just creating more chaos? Can any good deed go unpunished? That's the challenge Voltaire throws at us, and honestly, it's what makes Candide feel just as sharp and relevant today as it must have back in the 1700s.